Oh, hey! I didn't see you there. You know, when it comes to talking about Souls-like games, there's a lot that doesn't meet the eye, a lot that goes underneath what you're trying to see. You know, what you initially see right at the forefront of the issue is never what it truly is. Take me working on this lawnmower for an example, this little tractor here. There's nothing wrong with it. Matter of fact, this is a pipe wrench. There's nothing on a tractor. This is for caulking your house. Exactly. We don't need any caulk. The funnel's upside down. I live in Florida. I'm not going to be scraping any ice. You see, this also, I guess I could use this on a tractor if I wanted to cut it apart. Sawzall and everything. I think I have other crap just lying around here. But at first you saw me here with a bunch of tools and you thought, wow, he must be working on his tractor. But you see, you couldn't be more wrong. And that is how you go into every single Souls-like game. And today's Souls-like is another crab's treasure. The game begins in almost very National Geographic style. You get to see some turtles. It zooms out from the ocean and then slowly changes into a cartoon aesthetic where you are introduced to our hero, Krill, the little hermit crab, as he's chilling by the beach when he is suddenly approached by one of those stupid bat toys that you used to scratch your nuts when you were a child. It then rudely wakes you up and just decides to be a dickhead to you, just ruining your afternoon when you had nothing better going on than just chilling. That is how this game begins. This absolute piece of shit decides he's going to steal your home because as a hermit crab, your home is whatever you decide to put on your fucking back. That is your main prerogative. But this guy decided, hey, I'm just gonna steal that shit. What an interesting way to begin a game. To be honest, this is not where I thought this game was going to go. I had seen a little bit of forefront knowledge onto this game from other videos and decided to play it, but yet I did not expect the sheer fucking audacity of this asshole to steal my shit right out of the gate, to where I would have to chase him into the dark bellows of the ocean below. And yes, that's what I had to do, because I am a man on a mission. I am a man on a path of God. I have been put here on this earth to fix the things that need to be rectified. No one comes to my house and steals the whole goddamn thing. As this chase proceeds through the dark depths of the unknown, you are met again as he taunts you and is constantly at your every peck and corner, nagging at your very existence, telling you how much of a little bitch you are for not being able to capture him in the act of stealing your goddamn house. But as you are chasing him, you begin to see how gorgeous of a world has been created here. And that is something I have to give the developers. At every second in this game, you are treated with an absolute feast of a surrounding. Even though in the terms of gameplay, it's very by-the-numbers Souls-like. And yes, it does have a jump button, but it doesn't really help your attacking patterns very much. It's more for the platforming, which we'll get to a little later. Mainly, I just wanted to highlight how gorgeous the game is here, and also the fact that it is a Souls-like, and you will get your fucking ass pushed in like you're in prison and you're dropping the soap every night. Some people do it for fun. Hey, who am I to judge? All I know is when I met this son of a bitch with a lock, he kicked my goddamn ass in. And you know, I didn't play this game because I wanted to play it as a Souls-like. I played it because I wanted to play as a crab underwater with a gun. I saw that this game had a gun, and instantly I added in this joke setting because I wanted to experience this game with a goddamn Browning on my back like the fucking Giga Chad that I am. Like the goddamn man of God, even though that is not how guns work. Once you shoot a gun underwater, it kind of just goes just like erectile dysfunction, and then your wife is sitting there wishing that you had something that could hit the clit. But enough about the gun itself. I feel like it was a great addition for a lot of people who are kind of sick of the Souls-like fucking flow of games. I feel like the gates have been opened, and every other game that comes out has to be a Souls-like anymore. Now, I like the genre as much as the next guy, but I was a little fed up with it. And thank God this game has more than just a Souls-like combat, because the platforming is highly recommended. There There are some moments where the indie nature of this game gets in the way of the good platforming, but for the most part, the platforming is fairly well done, and it's going to be the bulk of what you do in this game, even with the combat being a highlight. I kind of, like I said, skipped it because I have a fucking gun, and all these other stupid fish can't handle the power of a 45. And on top of the platforming, I loved that throughout this game, you'll get little nuggets of SpongeBob thrown in there. Yes, that's right, look at those little stupid squids you're jumping on. They're SpongeBobby. They're the SpongeBob jellyfish, not squids. And when you do come back to the castle after you have previously talked on the queen and done some fetch quests, it finally feels like a Souls game. It's got that dark aesthetic. Something has devoured this earth. Thank God we got some berserk energy. But don't worry, lads, this doesn't last for very long, and this is where we kind of come into one of my biggest issues with this game. Though this aesthetic excited me, made my penis grow 3 inches this year, it didn't last for very long, because the biggest problem with this game is the fact that it'll go from bright and shiny to dark to bright and shiny to serious to jokey. It's all over the place. The main theme of this game can't seem to get its fucking atmosphere in check, because you'll have this adventure and you'll talk to this queen and everything's happy-go-lucky, and then you'll come back and she'll be this dreaded monster, which is absolutely wonderful if that's the tone we are going to be taking with the game. If that's going to be the main aesthetic moving forward, is we're going from a very happy, wonderful sea to now we're getting polluted and it's getting darker and more evil, and now we're going into a more Souls-like experience. But the main problem is that's not what the game's trying to do. You see, this one moment is never really recaptured upon throughout the rest of the game. There's some tidbits of it sprinkled out here and there, but for the most part, it just is kind of a tease. It's like, yeah, we are a Souls-like, here's your dark aesthetic, drink it in, and then let's shift back over to you thinking this is a weird, funny crab game with the stupid talking shark is back. And you know what's funny? This is the last moment you will ever see the shark again in the game, only to go back to what admittedly is a very beautiful game with wonderful surroundings, and every second, like I said, you want to just take a second and look around and really soak in every single piece of detail that these developers put in, because everything feels so handcrafted and so wonderful, to every stop sign, to every fish, to everything you see around you. You want to just live in it, breathe in it, love it, but at the same time, you have this moment where you're going through the game and you'll start to hit these contradicting tones of atmosphere that you'll start to get fatigued with the experience. And I started to feel this really early on, not right here. I was still kind of in love with what I was seeing from this point. It had re-vitalized me, but when I saw the dark aesthetic, I was like, oh, we're just becoming another Souls-like. We're just going, we're going from happy SpongeBob Wonderland to, oh, it's another fucking Souls-like, and then it's, oh, back to SpongeBob Wonderland. And when I say SpongeBob Wonderland, that is exactly what they gave us here, because when you get to this city, the first thought you're going to have is, shit, I just made it to fucking Bikini Bottom. I'm gonna Bikini Bottom that pussy, baby. Sorry. Sometimes I don't know how to control myself. I feel like I have to say slapping clit every time I open my mouth when I decide to do a video. But let's talk about the city itself. The developers really knew they had something gorgeous here, because when you get to the city, you then find out by this little town's guy that, hey, you should go check out these different pawn shops, from the dirty underbelly of the city, the old ghetto, to the main town square. It wants you to go to all different sectors of this town to really explore it and see the wonder that was created by these developers, and rightfully so. They did make something gorgeous here. This isn't the first time in a game in a very long time, since probably Nier Automata, that I jumped in and felt actual awe, felt actually inspired, and a bit of joy. It felt like I was going back to my childhood, seeing Bikini Bottom for the first time in SpongeBob. This is something amazing and should be cherished. And it's times throughout this game where you'll have these moments of absolute fucking wonder, and so much cool is to be had here. And you have like great mechanics in this game when it comes to platforming and movement, such as like you got grappling hooks and all sorts of cool nifty things. And there's a whole portion of this area where I just become fucking Spider Crab. Eat my heart out, Insomniac. I'm playing a crab game that has movement wasn't like yours. Okay, Insomniac did it a bit better, but I have to say it was fun zipping around the city like this, and the fact that this game gives you different tools to utilize these different areas and be able to reach places you didn't think previously accessible. I have to give this game its fucking due when it gets some dues in. I have to be able to say, hey, you slapped your dick out, I'll give it a pat on the head, but I ain't stroking it because I'm not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. But as you start to realize in this town, this is where the game changes directions and story, and I have to say this is not something I vibed with. Wasn't something that I jumped in and I was like, oh, I'm loving this. Nope, not feeling that. That's how in the moment I felt, okay, these are throwing a lot of new characters at me really fast after it just previously killed off all the other pussies that I met. And I feel like the first half of the game that I played thus far didn't fucking matter, especially when the main antagonist of the game is just gone forever now. You're never going to see old Shark Stick Toy again. He decided to go get some Shark Stick pussy and leave the game entirely. And that to me sits a little weird. It feels a little off because now you're looking for pawn shops to find where your shell is, and when you find the shell, it goes in a completely different direction. The game just decides, well, we were doing one thing, but now we're doing something completely fucking else now, and it just feels like one part of the game was made early on as an idea, and then they said, okay, this is what we want to do with the game now, this is the direction we're going in, but they wanted to keep the levels they'd made previously, so they just kind of shoehorned it together, and it really puts the gamer on a different, you feel like you got some fucking shell shock going. You're a little bit bamboozled and all over the goddamn place. And on top of that, my biggest problem with this whole different change in the story itself, from a very simplistic idea of, oh, bad guy there, have to go get him, a bunch of trash in the ocean, and you're like, oh, I get the thing that there's a lot of trash in the ocean, and that's bad because we have to put in some stuff like that with the ocean. Hey, stop throwing your trash in the ocean, world. Quit being dickheads. To now I get to a city and that's the main currency, and we have this overarching idea that once every so often it'll rain trash from the sky, and that's the currency that powers the city, and you start getting in these deeper lores of this game, which is very fitting for the Souls-like genre. If there's anything that the Souls-like games have done is spawn a huge lore base around their games, and when people go to make a Souls-like game, what they do is they like to build on these lores and do these underarching ideas and themes, and this game tries to do that just like every other game in the genre. The problem here is, unlike every other game in the genre, I feel like this game kind of hits you on the head with it a little hard, because as you see this area is raining down, you got this treasure map. Oh, well, there's this treasure that everybody now is interested in on the back of this fucking Cheerios box, or Captain Crunch, or whatever the fuck it wants to pretend to be. You now have this idea that there is this treasure. Now, if you get that treasure, you'll be able to get your shell, but at the same time, the mayor and the corporate evil greedy guy is here to try to get the treasure first, and now it's a race to see who can get this treasure faster. And this is where I begin to have some issues, some nitpicks about the game's writing and its story overall. The characters I'd met up to this point seemed okay. They had a little bit of humor to them, but for the most part, I was just kind of felt like I've already seen it before. It was this alluring thought in the back of my head that something seemed off. And then the trash started falling down on the city, evil corporate greed guy showed up, and it dawned on me. This game, even though it had a great aesthetic that I hadn't seen before, when it comes to storytelling, was something I've seen a million times. Yes, pollution is bad. It is something that we should try to keep away from, especially with somebody like me who loves fishing and hunting. I love nature. Don't fuck up my nature. And then when I look at, oh, capitalism, evil, it's bad. I mean, yeah, we've heard it a million times. You're not treading any new ground. And to have the cartoonishly evil capitalism guys show up, it just felt like a writing trope that I've seen way too many fucking times. To give you an example, if this game was like a serial killer game, it was a slasher flick, it would be wearing the mask and carrying a knife, just like Jason, just like Scream, and just like Halloween, except for instead of trying to tread new ground like those three films did, it would be hitting the same fucking points those films did without bringing anything really new other than it being animated. Not that that's a bad thing, of course. This game does have a lot in its favor, like I said previously, when it comes to its combat, or at least the combat that I played, running around with a giant browning on my back, just fucking up anything in my way. In the absolutely wonderful platforming, which only had a few times where I felt like the jumps were a little unfair and a bit indie in nature. And when I say indie in nature, I don't mean like, shit, this game's so goddamn indie that I can't even fucking play it because one dev who does way too much amphetamine in his basement slapped the shit together whilst jerking himself off. No, this was just like, they made a jump a little bit too far, or something felt a little bit unaccessible. Those were a few times I ran into it, but it was so slim and far between that I didn't feel like it was something to hard highlight, like it was a problem with the game, just something to bring up in passing. But for the most part, everything in this game is well crafted. The gimmicks work at the way they're intended to. Every time you run into one of these situations where you have to use Krill's shell to really utilize magnets or charge something up, it seems to be quick and easy, and it's not really taking you out of the actual game to become a hard gimmick, which I do appreciate that it's something that is crafted for these puzzles and you can utilize it. And even with the magnets and stuff, as long as you're wearing a shell that is metal, you can utilize the magnet, which is great for me considering my entire gun is made out of metal, and video game logic specifies that if something's made out of metal, it's automatically magnetic, doesn't matter what the material is, which is very funny. And again, when I talk about the level design in and of itself, it is perfect. It is well crafted, and almost every second of playing this game, I love every moment of it. It just, when it comes down to the story of this game and what it's trying to tell, and the themes that it's running with, they are very by the numbers. Because like I stated, everything seems to revolve around greed and pollution. And those are the main running forces, and there's really no differentiation from that. I mean, there will be times where characters will talk to you that you think, oh, well, they're changing their ways. They're wanting to be like this now because of your efforts throughout this world. And it kind of feels like everyone else around you is using you to benefit themselves. And even Krill at times will see, wow, these guys are just tagging along for this stupid-ass ride so that they can harbor the rewards of my actions. And they kind of try to make you feel bad throughout this game too, like, oh, because you were just being lazy before and not caring about the problems of the ocean, now it's your responsibility to uphold these other creatures' values, which I find a little annoying. That these creatures, like, you're supposed to care about these characters and a lot of them seem pretty nice. It's just like, I don't give a shit. Why is it my problem now to fix all of your problems? It's like, oh, I have to go collect this treasure to get my home back, but therefore I should feel bad that I have to take away this treasure from all of you instead of splitting it up. And they don't really feel like they help that drastically through this story. Yeah, they'll point you in a direction, but at the end of the day, you are the only one with enough combat prowess to accomplish these tasks against these people. And when you get into the boss fights, are they cool? Absolutely. And as I said, they crafted a wonderful game here. But I got to this part where I'm in this giant pinball machine, or regular sized pinball machine, I guess we're the ones that's small, and when you defeat the boss, he ping pongs around all over it, and you get this moment where Krill in of himself is like, fuck you guys, I am going to take this treasure, I don't care what this evil son of a bitch says, I don't care what you guys say, it's for me. And then he of course dooms everyone due to his selfish actions and his greed, again running with the theme of greed will be the downfall of man, or fish, or crab per se in this game. After dooming everyone to the depths of the ocean below, you then have a flashback. It's kind of the story between you and finding your shell and how you grew into it, and it's a beautiful story. It's wonderful, and this kind of thing that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. I like what the animation kind of slideshow you get from this makes you feel like you're reading a children's storybook, and I felt like this was a great moment to highlight your goals in the game, which actually kind of contradicts itself when it comes to the ideas of what the rest of these inhabitants of this underwater world want you to do. Is you have nostalgia, you have these goals, you have this life, and this life was uprooted from you from a shark that we never get to see again, which it still bothers me, to then go into the depths, which I kind of skipped a lot of the depths because when you get down there, you're just kind of depressed and you feel like you're the bad guy now for dooming all these people to this. But in reality, you're not really the bad guy, because due to the other hermit crab telling you that we're almost to the entrance of the old ocean, which is like all white and stuff because it's been covered in bleach. And there's a special world that will give us the power to really unlock any of the wishes we want, and only hermit crabs can access it because for some reason there is a celestial shell that'll turn a hermit crab into a god. And yeah, this is where the game started to lose me, not just because of the mystical nature that the game decided to go in, where it's starting to finally utilize some of the gunk that it seems to forget about constantly, and you're like, oh yeah, the gunk's caused from pollution, the pollution's a running theme, and it tries to remind you that it's a running theme instead of just you looking around and seeing trash everywhere. You have to have some other imminent doom that they're really not utilizing the way they should be. I just felt like that was a real sinking point to me, that it was like, oh, the gunk's just there, it just exists, and I feel like they didn't put enough writing effort in to make it an actual hard sticking point, instead of having a bunch of righteous, like really good people change into something evil that they would never be, just like the queen at the beginning of the game. The gunk just kind of facilitates as, oh, it's evil, and the people who are evil will eventually be bad. I really liked the idea that, oh, the gunk will take something that could be good and turn it evil, and we really don't utilize that. But as you get to the world, it's just like there's like 3 levels in between this and 3 different platforming areas, and it just felt like I just kept doing stuff, and I had already done this before, so I was just going over and over again doing the same thing, and I felt like this game had overstayed its welcome at a certain point, and I just couldn't care. And yeah, I wanted to see where the story went, because even though I have my gripes with the story and think it could have been written in a much better way, I still felt that there was enough good to be had in this game that I needed to keep pushing forward, not just for you, the viewers, when I eventually made this video, so that you could sit in the background and slap your own clits with furious ferocity, but also because I wanted to do it for myself to see what this game was going to become, but to just constantly be pushed through the same dredge over and over again to see a bunch of the similar, oh, one guy stabs the other guy in the back, oh, well, you think things are about to end? Well, too damn bad, because we have another person getting stabbed in the back. And yeah, I didn't show footage from the first guy. The actual mayor, greedy capitalist guy, ends up getting betrayed by his squid buddy and gets shot, which is metaphorically getting stabbed in the back. And then you progress to the shell in the deeper depths after defeating the squid, and you get down, and one of your allies throughout the game is standing down there with his 2 swords, and he's really the only guy who's worth the shit. His name's like Crustacean or something, and when you get down there, he then kills your other buddy and stabs him literally in the back, leaving you in this weird situation that you're like, why are you doing this? And the game's like, see, we tricked you, it's a twist, M. Night Shyamalan on a dick, we're doing it, we're doing the twist thing. And it's like, I've already seen you do this, stab an ally in the back twist, and it's like, oh, but that's not the only twist, it's not Crustacean doing the bad stabby stuff. You see, I am a celestial jellyfish. Whoa, celestial jellyfish. I have been noticing the horrors and the greed that is spread across the ocean due to the folly of man and their pollution, and I can't stand for it any longer, and you have to clean up the ocean. If you don't, I will whoop your ass. Leading to what is one of the best boss fights I have faced in the game, and yes, I understand that my gameplay prowess isn't going to be really upheld at the same value as somebody who played this game at face value, who actually went went through and learned the combat of the game. I just ran around shooting shit with the gun, but I did like that the developers were like, alright, we're gonna put a boss in here that you can't one-shot with the gun, that you're actually gonna have to fight. And normally in an actual game like this with all the flashing lights, it probably would have messed me up a little bit. Not bad. This wasn't as bad as the Remnant 2, where the boss fight felt like it was gonna give me a seizure. This game could have felt like it was way more handleable, but I also liked the fact that I had to move around, I had to dodge, I had to do all these things, even with the gun, as I slowly picked his life away. And after I did pick his life down to almost nothing, and he started his second phase where he drops my friend who really didn't have any chance and is wounded on the ground, and I start to play with my own morality. Do I decide to do the selfish thing, and after I finish his boss fight, take the shell for myself, trade it into the guy, and get back my shell? Or do I use the shell to save a friend of mine? And that becomes this moral struggle within Krill a little later after this fight progresses. But you do have to finish off the second wave, which is way more chaotic than the first. And again, I did like the fact that I slowly had to utilize the actual mechanics of the game, even with the gun. I thought that was an interesting way they did this, in a way to check the players to say, hey, do you actually know what the fuck you're doing? Or did you just use the gun to steamroll this entire gameplay experience? And luckily, I do have a little bit of Souls-like abilities to my name to be able to fight this boss fight, or this could have been the end for me. But again, I've played a lot of Souls-like, I've beaten quite a few Souls-like. You're not gonna pull me in here and then hammer my dick down and say, you can't fuck now. No, baby, I'm fucking through it. I'm getting the fuck through it. I'm laying down some pipe. I'm using the motion of the ocean to really seal the deal here. And after you do defeat this boss fight, and you do get you think you're going to get the shell, again, the game just has another character stab you in the back. Along with the theme of greed, this game kind of falls in the same folly where it's like, oh, one of your friends who's kind of changing his opinions, who used to be very selfish, now wants to donate to charity and save things. Well, now he decides that he wants the shell for himself, and how he's gonna take all of the pollution in the upper world and then dump it on the city, so everyone will have endless money, and it'll stimulate the economy, which, if you know anything about inflation and flowing or pushing a bunch of money into an economy, does the absolute opposite, because things that were once worth value now are valueless because there's so much of it. And that's kind of how it is going to destroy an economy. And when you do get to the end of the game, everybody seems to be just chilling and happy because of how much pollution's down there, and now they all are wealthy. But after a while, this is going to cause a problem, not just with the gunk causing all of the people to go mad, but also with the fact that the economy will then fail, and you will have to the point where no one really has anything of value. But that's like a whole nother theoretical rabbit hole this game could go down if it were to proceed after you defeat this guy and all the trash falls. Because here's the bad part of this game: you do get screwed over, and through your own selfish actions of wanting the shell and wanting to save the guy, you forget about your journey to save the guy, and then utilize the shell just to fight the guy. And I know I said the guy a bunch of times in this because I can't remember all their names, because again, I didn't find them that memorable. I found it more just a vehicle to tell something that I've already been told a million times in this game. And when I have the critiques of the story of this game, is instead of utilizing lore and utilizing the intelligence of the player to really come to these own realizations, the game takes a fucking iron skillet out and beats you over the head with it. It's like, did you know pollution is bad? And I'm like, yeah. Well, you need to fucking know pollution is bad. What are you, some sort of troglodyte? You are absolutely stupid. You need to learn these lessons I'm teaching you. Oh, you want to be greedy? Well, you're a piece of shit and your mother doesn't love you. And it's like, I get it, dude. And the fact that Krill even is this vehicle of selfish actions throughout this game, the fact that he ends up using the last moment of the super shell to then defeat his enemy instead of, oh, he already defeated him, let's save our friends. solutions. Let's move this pollution away from the city. No, I'm just gonna fuck everything up. Which kind of instills the idea that Krill kind of sucked as a main protagonist throughout this game, and really establishes my thoughts on why this game feels so disjointed, because you really don't ever feel like you have a solid through line after the shark leaves. You are now thrust into a bunch of politics and bullshit that you never cared about originally, and then you're expected to make the right choices, which anybody in the same position is going to have a more selfish perspective on that idea. It's just stupid. Even after you get your shell back, you end up beating the guy who took your shell, and you should have done that at the very beginning.
What word
and then the
comes
game
to
has
mind
this big
when you
ending
think
where it's like,
of the
oh,
Earth?
everybody takes their own directions. It's
This
not
world
always
is
good. It's
resilient,
not always bad. It's
not
bullshit.
endlessly so.
I don't know. I really didn't vibe with the whole end
As
story
this
and the
Earth
end
spins
morals
ever
of the
faster
game. Not
towards
that
its
I
uncertain
disagree with
future,
pollution being bad, but the
all
fact
will
that
face
every
that
twist was
future
just
in their
somebody
own
getting
way.
stabbed in the back. That's your big
Some will
realization
fight
that,
for
oh,
the
we're just
world
going to
they
stab him
dream
in the
of,
back. Oh, then somebody's going to
blade
stab
in
him in the back.
hand.
And then, oh, somebody's going to stab him in the back. And it kind of
Some
falls
will
into the
spend
same
their
pattern
whole
where you're
lives
doing the
saving
same
others
platforming
from
over and over
falling
again.
through the
And the
cracks.
game really outstays its welcome. At the end of the day, do I
And
think
others
it's a
still
good game?
will
Absolutely.
never
But
rest
do I think
in
it's a
one
great
place
game?
for long.
Absolutely not. But for a small-time
As this
second
fragile
game from a
world
developer, I
begins
have
to
to say they
fracture,
really did do a lot
no
that
matter
even the
how
AAA
large
industry
or
isn't able to
small,
accomplish.
the one
So
thing no
I
creature
recommend
can
playing this
afford
game. Make your own
is
opinions,
complacency.
and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much
But
for
though
watching.
history
Like,
talks
subscribe,
of
comment, you
warriors
stupid
and
bitches.
heroes
I love you all.
and
I'll
great
see you on the
mighty
next one.
crabs